Hello, my name is CJ, and welcome to my July 2016 manga collection video. This is the long version of this video, so if you like to hear a lot of commentary about the manga that I own, this is the video for you. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start over here with this small shelf because I think there's a few things on here that people are most interested in, and then I shall move over to the glory. All of that glorious, glorious manga over there. Oh boy. But yeah, just be patient. We'll get there soon. First off is my Sailor Moon collection. Now, there are actually 3 editions of Sailor Moon here, and I will go over each of them for you. The first is Tokyo Pop's edition. This publication was published in the late 90s, early 2000s, and this edition of Sailor Moon was actually some of the first manga I ever read, particularly this second volume. I bought the second volume of Sailor Moon, and I believe it was the 3rd volume of Saint Tail as the first manga volumes I ever bought. This, unfortunately, is not the original one that I bought that day. I used to own all 18, and for reasons that I may talk about in a future video, I ended up losing all of them. So this is almost like me just, I don't know, bringing back my childhood in a really small way. And another reason why I like to own these volumes is the translation in them is not perfect. It's not perfect by any means, trust me. They call Usagi Bunny, they change a bunch of stuff, but there's some things I like better about this translation than I do the Kodansha one, especially when it comes to how they translate some dialogue in the final arc Stars. But that's just me. That's just my own opinion. It's kind of interesting, an interesting little tidbit. You notice this one's wrapped. I actually got this volume in Japan. They had it in a used manga bookstore, and I was so shocked to see this version of Sailor Moon over there that I just had to pick it up, especially since I didn't have that volume as it was. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Next up is Kodansha's publication. I'll get these 2 beautiful things out of the way. Actually, I got this in, I believe it was a Right Stuff package, and I don't know how they knew that my favorite Sailor Scout was Sailor Venus, but I'm calling Illuminati on that. And then this was the first soundtrack CD of Sailor Moon Crystal that I got in Japan. I promised myself that I would never buy any Sailor Moon Crystal merchandise so long as it was bad. It's great now, so I definitely went out and got that first CD, so that was pretty cool. I love the song on there, by the way, the ending song, that is. So yeah, here is the Kodansha edition of Sailor Moon. This translation is alright. It's not perfect, but honestly, it's something that I really, really don't mind. You know, they mess up attack names here and there, but it's really not that big of a deal, and I'm especially grateful for this release of Sailor V, because this Tokyo Pop edition didn't have Sailor V, so I was finally able to read Sailor V for the first time a few years ago, and I absolutely adored it. Really, there's just some clunky dialogue in these last 2 volumes that I don't like. Like, the final line in Sailor Moon goes something like, "Sailor Moon is the most beautiful star I have ever known," and Kodansha translated it to, "Sailor Moon is the most beautiful heavenly body I've ever known." And it's like, yeah, I get the moon itself is not a star, it's a celestial body, and I guess technically the translation is more, like, accurate, but I mean, come on, it just doesn't sound right. Next up is the Japanese edition of the Perfect Edition. These volumes are really, really cool. They have new art on them by Nako Takeuchi. Some of the art's great. Like, this art, I absolutely adore it. And inside these volumes you get color art, which is super, super cool. They're also a lot thicker than the normal volumes. You get, like, I think it's like something like 1 more chapter, but I mean, hey, you know, I'm not complaining. So I have the first volume. I have the volume with my favorite Sailor Soldier, Sailor Venus, on it. It's also the beginning of my second favorite arc in the manga, the Infinity Arc. And then, because I love Stars so much, I have the last 2 volumes that cover Stars. And yeah, so, I mean, the art's just absolutely gorgeous. I also have these 2 volumes of Sailor V, which I'm a little disappointed because Nako Takeuchi actually didn't do new art for this. They just kept the old art, which I was like, I mean, come on. V gets no love, but whatever. You know, I'll live. Ah, go back. Okay. Oh no, my little figures almost fell off. Speaking of which, though, if you see any figures that you like in this video or want me to talk about them more, please let me know in the comments. I'm very, very much considering making a figure video, so please let me know if you're interested in something like that. Next up is my glorious Clamp collection, and it extends a little bit down here. If you don't know who Clamp is a group of authors. It's 4 authors who came together to make a bunch of manga series, and you can tell especially that's written by 4 different people, just like looking at Magic Knight Re-Earth and Cardcaptor Sakura alone. I mean, the art styles are so different between those two series. And I think it really, for most of these series, the four author thing is really, really helpful. It definitely adds diversity to the characters, the story, the art, and it makes following Clamp's work really, really fun. First up, we have the first omnibus of X. I didn't really like X. This was published by Viz Media, and they did a really good job. I love the fact that if you own multiple volumes of this, it creates a like collage of different images, and I'm sorry, I just really don't like X. I think the story's super clunky. The art is absolutely gorgeous, though, so if you're a Clamp fan, consider it. If not, just skip it. Next up is Magic Knight Re-Earth Volume 1. This is, like, hands down one of my favorite magical girl series ever. I mean, I almost, like, hesitate calling it a magical girl series. It's really just about three girls who get warped to this fantasy world. There's violence, there's magic, it just has an amazing story and an amazing twist at the end. I highly, highly recommend you check out Magic Knight Re-Earth if you haven't already. It's old, but it's good. And in between Magic Knight Re-Earth 1 and 2 is Miyuki-chan in Wonderland. And I should probably explain now how I ordered these volumes, and really how I order all my volumes if they have multiple authors. I ordered them by publication. So, for example, X came out before Magic Knight Re-Earth, or the first volume at least came out before Magic Knight Re-Earth, so I put it there. Miyuki-chan in Wonderland actually came out either during or between these two series, so I actually put it right smack dab in the middle. And I'm actually glad that I was able to do that, as I'll explain soon. So this is probably one of Clamp's more raunchy works. It's really, really weird. It's just Alice in Wonderland, almost like just risque like art and storytelling. It's really, really strange. I don't know why they published it, but I had to pick it up because I thought it was absolutely hysterical. And I actually have this like little bit of a fantasy of owning at least one volume of every single Clamp series that there are. So I really, really want to do that, and unfortunately to reach that goal, I had to get that volume. So I would only get this if you're morbidly curious to see what that's about. And then Magic Knight Re-Earth 2. Oh boy. So this is like the continuation. I wouldn't call it a sequel. It's more like a continuation of this story, because this story ends with a bit of a sour note. It doesn't really have a complete ending. It's really, really sequel baity. So you'd think that adding giant robots to this story would make it amazing, and it does. There's actually some really, really cool fights in this, but most of it is just characters talking and standing around and like crying about their feelings. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great shoujo series that do just that and are amazing for it, but Magic Knight Re-Earth 2 does it completely, completely wrong. It's a very, very disappointing follow-up to an amazing start. Yeah, that's just my sad opinion. Next up is Cardcaptor Sakura. I have the first two omnibuses and the last omnibus. And then I have this awkward little section in the middle where the third omnibus should be, but I have like the old publication from Tokyo Pop there instead, because this volume right here, the first one, was one of the only surviving manga books that I have from my childhood. So I didn't want to get rid of that, so I just got the other two to fill in the space rather than just buying a really expensive omnibus. The first half of Cardcaptor Sakura, much like Magic Knight Re-Earth, is amazing. It's some of the best magical girl stuff you'll ever read. It's really, really good. It's smart. It's really intelligent. Pretty much the whole series is just like Sakura solving puzzles. You know, like one of my favorite examples is when she fights the water spirit and she says, okay, like in order to defeat the water spirit, I have to get it to stop moving. So she tricks it into going into her school freezer room, which is a very, very ingenious, cool idea. It ends great. It's awesome. And then you get to part 2. And part 2 is still good, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as good. It's more about, like, kind of like with Magic Knight Re-Earth 2, it's more about characters standing around talking about their feelings, which the characters in this series are much more likable than they can be in this part, so a lot of people like that, and to be honest, I do too, but I just can't ignore the fact that the first 6 volumes were better, and I'm very, very worried about the sequel that Cardcaptor Sakura is getting. I read the first chapter, I love it, but recent Clamp series have been pretty bad. Like, they start off great and then they just tank, so I'm praying that that doesn't happen to Cardcaptor Sakura in its sequel. Let's just pray that doesn't happen. Next up is Wish, 4 volumes of gloriousness. Again, this first volume is one of the only surviving manga volumes of my childhood. This series is just a lot of characters standing around and talking about their feelings. But it's good. I really, really enjoy it. It's about like an angel who comes to Earth and is saved by this human. So she tells him that he can make one wish and she'll grant it. And it's all about like what the wish is going to be. And, you know, it's a cute little love story. But yeah, highly recommend Wish if you're into that shoujo romance stuff. Next up is Clover, which is, man, this is one of the weirdest, coolest series I own. This is an incomplete series. Clamp never completed it. They only made about, I think it's like 4 volumes or something, and this is the omnibus containing all 4 of those volumes. It's a very trippy story. It's a very odd story, and it's like, it's just kind of weird just talking about it. Like, I don't really know what to say about it other than if you like Clamp, read it. I don't know, I like it, but it's hard to recommend because it's really difficult to talk about because the story, I don't know, is there even a story? It's just very strange. Next is Angelic Lair. This is a sort of Clamp's attempt at a battle manga. Like, this is a series about dolls, like battling dolls. So it's like tiny dolls on a table and players wear these headsets that control the dolls and move them around. It's pretty cool. It's like a little action series, and it's actually, believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this, is a prequel to Chobits. You don't have to read this series to enjoy Chobits and vice versa, but it's pretty cool how those two series connect. But yeah, I really enjoyed Angelic Lair. It's a nice little innocent romp, and yeah, definitely check it out if you're a Clamp fan. Or, I don't know, just a battle manga fan. Next up is Chobits. Chobits is the best Clamp series ever. Fight me! No, but seriously, people go nuts over Chobits, and there's a good reason why. This is an incredibly awesome sci-fi seinen shoujo. I don't even know what you would call this thing. It's amazing. I have the first omnibus by Dark Horse, and then I have the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th volume by Tokyo Pop, making a complete series. Again, the 5th volume is one of the only remaining volumes of my childhood, which is kind of funny, because if you look on the back, I'm not sure why Borders ever let me buy this thing at probably I don't know, the age of 12 or 13, but and there's a little older teen rating on the back there. Bad CJ. Bad CJ. But yeah, this is an amazing series. Out of all the manga I'll be showing you today, this is probably going to be one of my highest recommendations. It's very good. It's very mature though, so if you're a younger viewer, wait a bit before you read it, just as a warning. Next up is Tsubasa, volumes 1 through 3. This is an odd one. It's technically a sequel to Cardcaptor Sakura, but I don't want to go into too many details as to why it is. It started off amazing, which is why I have these first 3 volumes. These first 3 volumes are really cool, and it's basically a love letter to Clamp as a whole. I mean, there's a bunch of characters from a bunch of different series who appear in this series as like alternate dimension versions of themselves. And it's just a wild ride, but eventually it gets caught up in really, really confusing plot points and, I don't know, just really bad writing. I know Tsubasa has a lot of fans, though, so don't get me wrong, that's not me dissing the series. I just think that it had a better start than its conclusion, but that's just my opinion. Next up is the first 3 volumes of XxXHolic. Oh boy, this series. Again, like Tsubasa, started off amazing. In fact, the first 10 volumes are just crazy cool. I have the first 3 here just to support the series. But it kind of gets bogged down by its own, again, convoluted plot. It's really, really upsetting. But I highly, highly recommend, if you're into like supernatural stuff like me, like mystery stuff, definitely check out XxXHolic, at least its first 10 volumes. You will not regret it. It's very, very cool. Next up are these 2 series, and I'm not really sure where to put them, so I just kind of put them here. First up, I have the first 3 volumes of Kobato, and they don't tell you this, but Kobato is a sequel to Wish. They don't tell you that, and it makes me angry to say that, because Kobato straight up spoils Wish. Like, out of nowhere, the main character from Wish appears, and she's like, hey, so here's what happens in my story. And I'm like, what? Like, I was so mad. Like, even though it was cool for me to see that character, like, if you haven't read Wish, that can be a huge disappointment. Because, I mean, why would you go read that series now when you know everything that's going to happen? It was very, very upsetting. But otherwise, I thought Kobato was super, super cute. The first volume is this, like, comedic romp, and then it starts to get serious. It's kind of a weird series, but I enjoyed it. Gate 7. Let me be frank with people about Gate 7. This series has gorgeous art. I mean, look at that. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing art. And I initially picked it up because of its amazing art, but the story is just, it's just bad. I don't know what Clamp was thinking. From what I understand, the series is on hiatus, so it's already bad story. Now it doesn't even have a conclusion. That's really just too bad. Don't recommend. I really, really don't recommend Gate 7, even if you are a Clamp fan. Next up is all of Ranma Half. I have the new edition in omnibus format in this first part, and the old edition for the last part. It gets kind of confusing considering if you look right in this middle here, you'll see what appears to be an extra copy of 23 and 24. Well, actually, believe it or not, if you read this volume all the way through, and then you immediately pick up on this volume, it's seamless. Like, the story just is seamless. That's because when Viz was originally publishing Ranma Half, they made the first volume, like, super big for some reason, so the rest of the volumes were affected. So, you know, you have what should be volume 25 is now 23 in the old version. So yeah, that gets super confusing, but I was able to figure it out, and now I have all of Ranma Half, even if it is a little bit awkward. But Ranma Half is a really super amazing comedy. Rumiko Takahashi is really, really good about comedy. It's hard to explain, but this series is kind of just one big inside joke. Characters, there are so many reoccurring characters and so many reoccurring jokes that will have you just laughing out loud. Like, there are very few manga that legitimately make me laugh out loud. This is one of them. It's a very, very good story. I highly recommend this. Next up is my bottom shelf, and it's kind of hard to film. I have to actually, like, sit on the floor for this. What are you doing there, Hyrule Story? You're not a mango. In fact, those really aren't mangoes either. Get out of here! I do like American comics, too. Those are some of my favorite ones right there. But yeah, I have Hyrule Storia, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask's 3DS, Strategy Guide. Majora's Mask is my favorite video game of all time. And finally, I have the Link to the Past manga that was published in Nintendo Power. If you're a Zelda fan, this is definitely one to get. It's very, very, very cool. I have the art of Cardcaptor Sakura. I really just didn't have a place for this, so I just put it down here. Cardcaptor Sakura, I believe they published the art in 3 volumes when I was younger. I only got the first 2. So yeah, I do regret not getting the 3rd one because the art is really, really gorgeous. I mean, oh, it's so cute. But I'm glad I got these volumes when I did. And next up is the 2 Shonen Jump volumes that I got in Japan. These are super cool because they have really, really cool One Piece chapters in them, and I'm going to be quite vague. But this one introduces members of the Germa 66 that are important to this current arc, and this one introduces the villain of the current arc. Finally, you know, we see her for the first time in, like, her full, I don't know, glorious appearance. So these volumes are very, very cool. There was actually a 3rd volume that came out when I was in Japan, but I didn't pick it up because it didn't have a One Piece chapter in it. I was just really not that interested, and my luggage was so full as it was, so I just have these 2. And I have almost all of Dragon Ball published in this cheap omnibus format. A lot of people don't like these cheap omnibuses because from what I understand, the paper is really, really thin. It's kind of hard to see on this camera, but it's like newspaper thin. You can see some of the black of certain pages leak through to the backs of others. And to be honest, I don't mind. This is me reading Dragon Ball for the first time, just buying all these volumes. So I'm not really that big of a fan, even though, well, I guess I own it all. But, you know, for me, it was okay. I really didn't mind it. I'm super excited to see the full image on the side of these volumes. I only have one more to go. We have cute little Vegeta there, which is just absolutely adorable. So I can't wait to see what the final volume will have. And finally, I have the 1-volume issue of Jacko the Galactic Patrolman. This is a very, very funny volume, and it'll definitely let you understand who this character is. He was in the movie Resurrection F, and I swear to goodness, my whole theater kind of let out this audible, like, who's that guy, when he appeared in the movie, and it was absolutely hysterical. I think I maybe was like one of 2 people who knew who he was. So definitely check out that volume if you're curious about that guy, because it is Dragon Ball canon. Let's move on to all of this. Now, I should clarify really quick, on this shelf, I have everything ordered by author. So A to Z as far as the author is concerned. It's not just all random, I promise. First up, I have Alive, the Final Evolution. I have volumes 1 through 6 here, and also 8. Unfortunately, it's really sad. This was the last volume ever published by Del Rey of this series. And yeah, it has this little continued in volume 9 thing. That is a lie. There is no volume 9. You betrayed me. No, but this series is really good. It's a super dark shonen. It's got a lot of dark themes, particularly themes of suicide, depression, that kind of stuff. So just a fair warning for people going into this. This is not a happy ride, but I really, really have enjoyed it. And yeah, the artist who worked on this went on to Noragami. So if you want to see like more Noragami-esque stuff, definitely check out this series. And speaking of which, here's Noragami. I have volumes 1 through 15, and I actually have a little bit of space on this shelf for volume 16 because I believe I'm getting that at the end of this month. Yeah, this series is super cool. I absolutely adore Noragami. It's this weird hybrid of shonen and shoujo. Like, it's so hard to explain this series to people because there's a lot of action, but a lot of the problems that the characters encounter is solved by problem solving with like their emotions, like how they connect to other characters. It's all about like Japanese gods and the spirits that they influence. It's very, very cool. And the art is just absolutely gorgeous. It's really pretty. And these volumes, it's kind of hard to show on camera, but these volumes are a really cool matte texture. So I've been very, very happy to support this edition of this series. Kodansha Comics is a really, really good publisher. And they've been publishing this series, I believe, like once a month since last year. So each one of these volumes has come out like every single month. So this has been really, really exciting to read. I'm super excited for 16 and for more of it. It's just awesome. And I have the first volume of Stray Stories. I wouldn't recommend getting this unless you really, really enjoy Noragami. It's basically just comedic side stories about the characters, but it's really cool. If you really like Noragami, I highly recommend that volume. And next up is Full Metal Alchemist. Oh, Hiromu Arakawa, I love you. This is an amazing series. If you're not into manga, and for whatever reason you're watching this video, this is often what I recommend for people's first manga. This series is super cool. The lady who wrote this did a lot of research into making this world seem super authentic and awesome. In fact, I believe for volume, I think it was volume 15, I could be wrong. Yes, volume 15, she actually interviewed real veterans of war for this volume just to make sure that her story made sense. I mean, that's just insanely cool. Yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist is a great shonen. It's got amazing characters, an amazing story all the way through. Definitely recommend it. If you've seen the Fullmetal Alchemist anime, the first one goes up to, I believe it's volume 8, and then continues on its own original story. In fact, I actually really do enjoy the original anime. That's not me slamming it whatsoever. And then Brotherhood, for the most part, covers this original manga. But there are, I believe, 2 stories in the first volume, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that are barely covered or not covered at all in the Brotherhood anime. So I still recommend the manga as just an excellent way to enjoy the series. And in fact, the manga still is my favorite adaptation of the series. It is the original, so it's probably going to be the favorite of a lot of people. Next up is The Heroic Legend of Arslan. Now, this is an adaptation by Hiromu Arakawa. This is not her original story. It's based off a Japanese classic, but it still is really, really good. I mean, she does an amazing job with this story. The art's fantastic. The characters are really likable. It's super enjoyable. I definitely recommend Arslan if you're into those like classic stories of, I don't know, just knights and wars and battles and politics. There's a lot of politics in the series, but it doesn't weigh the series down, I promise. It's very, very cool. Highly, highly recommend The Heroic Legend of Arslan. Next up is Nichijou, My Ordinary Life. This is not an ordinary life at all. This series is absolutely insane, as you can just tell from that first volume there. A lot of people have pitched this series to me as like a sort of Azumanga Daioh-esque series. And I don't know, Nichijou is funny, but it's not funny in the way that Azumanga Daioh is. Azumanga Daioh, the humor in this series is more about just the characters and how they live their lives. Just really, it's more about the relationships of the characters themselves, where Nichijou is all about, yeah, just crazy stuff happening, like, you know, robots and rocket launchers and deer and wrestling and, you know, bamboo shoots all over the ground here. You know, Nichijou is funny. It's very, very funny, but it's not funny in the way that Azumanga Daioh is. That's they're two very different series, and I really should clarify that because a lot of people tend to equate these two, and they're really different. Next is Nanan Biori, and this is another series that's been compared to Azumanga Daioh, which is kind of weird that all three of these series just happen to be right in a row. Nanan Biori is a very, very good series about 4 girls who live in the country, and by live in the country, I mean like super rural country. Living in Indiana myself, this series is super relatable on many, many, in many different ways. It's super cute. I really do enjoy it, and the covers are really meta. A lot of times they'll show the characters like holding the volume number or interacting with it in some way. Like in that one, she's spraying it away. Yeah, I highly recommend Nanan Biori. I've been really enjoying the anime too. Yeah, this is just an absolutely delightful series. And of course, next up is Azumanga Daioh. This is actually one of my favorite anime of all time. I still really enjoy the manga, but this is a very rare case where I actually enjoyed the anime a little bit more. Although they weren't able to cover everything in the manga, so the manga is still definitely a worthwhile read. And this omnibus is awesome. It just covers the entire series, originally 4 volumes. Actually, kind of a funny thing, when this was originally published, I believe by ADV Comics, I could be wrong. If I am, I'll put that there. This was originally marketed, so it had 4 volumes, and like each volume had like, oh, they're freshmen, oh, they're sophomores, oh, they're seniors, oh, they're juniors, whatever. There's only 3 years of Japanese high school, so this made this really confusing when I was first reading it, because I was like, wait, when does their sophomore year begin? When does their junior year begin? Wait, they're seniors now? What? It's very, very interesting how they tried to market that, even though they only go through 3 years of school. They made it try to seem like they actually went through 4. That's not the case. There's only 3 years. But Azumanga Daioh is hilarious. Definitely recommend it. Next up is Yotsuba, and if you're a manga fan and you don't know what Yotsuba is, have you been hiding under a rock? No, seriously though. Have you? Like, this is probably one of the most celebrated manga series that I know of, and for a good reason. It's because it never had an anime. For whatever reason, there were some complications or something happened with the production of Azumanga Daioh, and Azuma just decided that he was not going to allow Yotsuba to become an anime. So Yotsuba forever is a manga. And the volumes have been very, very slow to come out. This 13th volume took forever to come out, and I remember thinking it was odd because in Japan, I would see manga volumes in bookstores, and I would think, oh man, I can't wait to get that volume in the States, it's going to be a while before we get that. But with Yotsuba, it was always that 13th volume sitting there, and I was like, yeah, we've had that one for a while. So yeah, but I can't wait to see what more this series brings. It's a very, very cute story about a young girl who moves into a neighborhood and discovers really the world for the first time. High recommendation for me. Next up is Princess Jellyfish. Oh, hello, Princess Jellyfish. How are you doing? This series is super cute. It is a shoujo about a otaku or nerd who lives in a house full of other nerds and bumps into this very, very pretty girl who changes her life forever. This series is just awesome. It's hard to explain why it's so good, but very, very few manga get nerds right, and this one really, really gets them right. It's been hard to explain to extroverts how, and I'm sure introverts can relate to this, how good it feels to just be able to like go home, just be able to do what you need to do to cool down and be yourself. And this series totally gets that right. And I love that they have like color pages in these volumes. Like Kodansha, you were just amazing. I love Kodansha's publications, and they did another amazing job with Princess Jellyfish. Next is The Legend of Zelda manga box set. And this is all the current manga that's going on right now, or that's been published, excuse me. Currently, there is a Twilight Princess manga that is being published, but it's not here in the States just yet. I'm super excited for it, though, because I read the first chapter and I loved it, so I can't wait to see what's more to come with it. But yeah, I really, really like this box set because, and I think I mentioned this in last year's video, but instead of putting all of the games in order, say like putting, I don't know, A Link to the Past first, and then, Ocarina of Time, and so on and so forth, they decided to put them in order of publication. So Ocarina of Time was the first one published, and then so on and so forth. And I really, really enjoy that because you can see the author's, evolution, as the volumes go on. It's pretty cool. The volumes that are the best ones are probably the ones that are based on the games with the least amount of story. So Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Phantom Hourglass, those really aren't as amazing as I think they could be. The ones that really work are stuff like Oracle of Seasons, Four Swords. Like, those ones are really, really cool because the author is basically free to interpret what little story there is and make it expansive and bigger. I'm a little worried about Twilight Princess for that reason because, you know, the author could get bogged down with all of the content that there is in the game. But so far, it seems like she's going with her own original take on it. So, oh man, I hope Twilight Princess is good. We'll see though. But yeah, this box set is awesome. I bought it on a sale, and yeah, it just looks really, really good on my shelf. I mean, oh, that art is so cool. Link to the Past Princess Zelda is definitely my favorite design of hers, so it's super, super cool to see that. I have the first volume of Hellsing. I might get more, I might not. I got this as a joke because my friend said that I would find the Catholics portrayed in the series to be funny, and I definitely did. They are hilarious. I'm Catholic myself, but I I don't mind reading series where Catholics are the villain, especially when they are portrayed in such a hilarious way. It's really, really funny. Yeah, it's aged quite a bit, but I can see why people like Hellsing. I might get more. We'll see. My Hero Academia, this is a really, really cool shonen series that's going on right now. I only have the first 3 volumes. I'm not sure if I'm going to get more. I think it really just depends on if I like where the manga is going. And right now, I think the manga's... I think it's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's, like, incredible yet. So we'll see. But I really have been enjoying this series. If you like American comics like superheroes, and you also like manga, I definitely recommend My Hero Academia if you haven't checked it out already. Next is DGrayMan, omnibuses containing volumes 1 through 24, and I have 24 grams all the way up here. Oh, DGrayMan's... How do I put this the right way? I love DGrayMan, but it went on this super, super long hiatus, and I'm not sure when or if we're ever going to get a volume past 24. If we do, I'll probably wait for the volume to come out in omnibus format, just so my volumes are consistent. A lot of people, again, I mentioned this around the Dragon Ball Z part, a lot of people don't like the newspaper quality of these volumes, but, for the amount that they cost, full price they're like $15, which is, half of the price you would buy of, 3 of the volumes normally. I really don't mind it, and I don't know, I think it makes manga collecting a lot easier than it could be. So I'm going to keep collecting omnibuses, and I really enjoy them, and if you don't, that's totally fine too. But yeah, DGrayMan's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. It's not the best shonen out there. It gets super, super convoluted around these volumes. But I really, really enjoy the gothic horror aspect of it. And I hope it ends. That's all I have to say really about it. Not even just I hope it ends well, I just hope it ends. I hope the author gets a fair chance to end the series the way that she wants to. I didn't cover this little window here. I probably should do that before I continue. These are random Japanese volumes that I own for whatever reason. This first one is the first volume of Silver Spoon. I got this to support the beloved Hiromu Arakawa. I actually haven't read Silver Spoon yet, but I got the first volume again to support her. I heard this series is really good, so man, I just better buckle down and just read that scanlation. But I had to, before I did that, I had to support this series at least by buying the first volume, even if I can't read that volume in particular. These next 5 are a manga called Hoseki no Kuni, or Kingdom of the Gems. This is some of the most beautiful art I've seen in quite some time. I absolutely adore this series. If you haven't read Hoseki no Kuni, it's basically, I've heard it described as the Steven Universe of manga. I haven't seen Steven Universe myself, but from what I understand, this series has jewels or gems that take the form of people, and they fight against these strange invaders from the moon who want to capture and steal them away. I think it's really just the gem part that's like the Steven Universe part. This 3rd volume is, from what I understand, the best part of the series, and so I was super, super happy to own that. I bought the first volume here from a store called Kinokuniya, so I bought this volume in the States. I bought these 4 when I was in Japan because I just had to complete the series. I mean, just, oh, look at that. I'm sorry, I'm just going absolutely gaga over this art, but it really is beautiful. I mean, that's just, oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah, definitely an underrated series. I don't see this series talked about a lot. Next up, I have 4 volumes of One Piece. I got them all for various reasons. This one's my favorite One Piece volume of all time, volume 35. This one has a hidden Panda Man on the inside of the volume. In fact, I'll just get that out right now. The next two are Dressrosa volumes that I got, again, at Kinokuniya. And there's that hidden little panda man. That's super cute. This one, again, has another hidden panda man. I'll go ahead and take that out. Where Doflamingo's face should be is Panda Man. That's super cute. Next up is 2 volumes of Soul Eater. I got these at a convention. Well, I got the one at a convention. I got the other one at another place a long time ago. Soul Eater was one of my favorite series for a really long time. Still is. I still enjoy it. These are like my 2 favorite characters, along with Excalibur, so I just got those volumes just because it was cool. I got this edition of Beelzebub when I was in Japan. Beelzebub was a manga that was never published in the States, primarily because the baby character is nude throughout the manga, and I think that was seen as too controversial to be published, which is really a shame because Beelzebub is really funny, and it was canceled, so it has a really, really rushed ending. Oh well. Next up is Teppu, which is a kickboxing manga about a girl who is really, really good at pretty much every sport except for kickboxing, and she sees this as a challenge to get better. This series is absolutely insane. It's so good. The art is absolutely incredible. It gets, although this first volume is kind of derpy, but I promise you it gets better. I mean, just look at the comparison between the art of the first and second and 6th volume, excuse me. I got the first volume when I was in Japan. I got the 6th one at a store called Kinokuniya. There's only 8 volumes of it. It's a very short series, and I highly recommend it. If you like sports manga, especially, this Teppu or Iron Wind is so good. Definitely check it out. And here's this little window of manga that I really couldn't fit where I wanted them to. Araki obviously would have gone somewhere up here, but I can't fit these awesome hardcover omnibuses up there. These volumes are so cool. I might get part 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but for now I settled with part 2 because part 2 is one of my favorite arcs in the manga. It's got my favorite JoJo, Joseph Joestar. Let me take that out real quick. I mean, those, oh my gosh, those hardcovers are so cool. And the art is so good that the face detection system on my camera is trying to pick up Joseph's face there. That's really funny. Yeah, I absolutely adore JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. When I was in Japan, I picked up this special edition of the, I believe, like, I don't know, something like the 1st and 2nd volume of Stone Ocean, the 6th part. I also picked up this 1st volume of Seal Ball Run, and I also picked up the 1st volume of the current arc that's going on right now, JoJo Lion. If you ask me what my favorite JoJo part is, it's probably going to be Steel Ball Run. I flip-flop a bit between parts 6 and 7, though, and I don't know, JoJo is just an amazing series. I'm so glad I got into it, and I just can't wait to see how Part 8 ends. Part 8 has not been as good as Steel Ball Run for me, but, I mean, with JoJo arcs, you can't really tell if they're going to be amazing or just kind of okay until the very, very last parts of the arc, so I'm super excited to see what's coming up for JoJo Lion. Next I have All You Need Is Kill, the manga adaptation by Takeshi Obata. If you don't know who that guy is, he is the artist of series like Hikaru no Go, Death Note, and Bakuman. This is an amazing adaptation. I absolutely adore it. It's really good, and I'm so sad I couldn't put it in its proper place on my shelf. If you've seen the movie The Edge of Tomorrow, it's actually based on this story, and the ending of the movie is different from the ending in the manga in the original story. And to be honest with you, I don't know which one I like better, like, as far as the ending is concerned. But I really like The Edge of Tomorrow. I really like All You Need Is Kill. Definitely recommend this. Next is Inuyasha. This is quite an old series now. It's one of the things that really got me into anime. This big edition of the first 3 volumes is what put this here. I couldn't fit it in. It's what should have been its normal place on my shelf. I have, again, the first 3 volumes in this first big edition, 4, 5, and 6, and volume 10. Inuyasha's good in the beginning. Yeah, I'm not going to trash it. Inuyasha is good in the beginning. It kind of gets lost in its own convoluted plot. You know, every time Naraku, the villain, hops away in victory and goes, "Haha, Inuyasha, you almost defeated me this time with that new technique you picked up, but you'll have to pick up a newer technique," I just would be like, oh, come on. So yeah, Inuyasha went on way too long for its own good, but I really enjoyed the first part of it, and I think as like a shonen horror series, it was initially very good. I definitely give the first part of Inuyasha a reread if you think I'm crazy. I promise you, you will be surprised. And on this second shelf is Attack on Titan. Oh man, even if you don't know what anime or manga is, you probably know of Attack on Titan. It's that popular. I have the first 18 volumes here, along with the special edition of volume 17, which contains an anime episode. It's like this OVA thing that they didn't include in the first season originally, so I thought that was pretty cool, so I picked that up. I have not really been interested in any of the other special editions, particularly because I believe they cover No Regrets, which I didn't think was all that amazing, but that's just my own personal opinion. Attack on Titan is a great story. It's super good, it's super gritty, it's super violent. It's not the Game of Thrones of anime like a lot of people like to tote it is. I could say for maybe the first 3 volumes that it is, when you're not really sure what characters you should care about or not. But after the first 3 volumes, main characters have plot armor. I recommend if you want to read the manga and you've seen the first season, start on volume 8. This is going to be a really, really good way to get you into the manga from here on out. The second season, I think, is supposed to come out in 2017, but man, it's been delayed so much that I don't blame people if they just want to continue in the manga and see where the story goes. There's so many spoilers floating around on the internet. I feel so bad for you guys who are anime-only viewers. It stinks. As far as the art is concerned, a lot of people complain about the quote-unquote bad art. I don't want to go past Volume 8 for people who haven't seen the series, but I think it's so raw and gritty. I just think it's fantastic. Yes, it's different from most manga. Yes, it can look super awkward at times, but when it's done right, it's done amazing. So that's just my own opinion, though. I also have volumes 1 and 2 of No Regrets. This is the story, backstory of Levi. I wouldn't recommend this unless you care about Levi. If you care about Levi, get this. If not, skip it. There's not really a lot of revelation about Levi's character. Really, you just learn how he got into the army. You don't learn anything else. But there's some pretty good action here, and I actually like the artist that they got for this series. They did a pretty good job with it. But again, I would only get it if you're really just interested in more stuff about Levi. Next is Tokyo Ghoul, volumes 1 through 3. And oh boy, I have a lot to say about Tokyo Ghoul. First off, these editions of Tokyo Ghoul are so cool. Viz did an amazing job with these. And this was initially why I was interested in Tokyo Ghoul in the first place. The second is that my students absolutely love Tokyo Ghoul, which kind of scares me because most of them are junior high age. But anyway, the first 3 volumes are amazing. I really, really enjoyed them. And when I first started getting Tokyo Ghoul, these were the only volumes that were available at the time. So I just got all 3. Sped right through them, really enjoyed them, and then I decided to continue the rest of the series via scanlations. And I kind of had this idea where I would read the rest via scanlations and buy the rest of it as time went on, but as I started reading the scanlations, I started liking less of what I saw. And please, I implore you guys, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from what I was able to tell, it kind of just turns into shonen schlock. Like, this main character kind of turns into, like, the chosen one. Well, not really the chosen one, but, like, you know, kind of like, he's the special, and oh boy, isn't he special, and he's just winning all of them fights, you know. Please correct me if I'm wrong on this. I just didn't like where Tokyo Ghoul was going. I hear that Tokyo Ghoul Re is supposed to be amazing, so again, if I'm just spewing, like, utter nonsense here, please let me know in the comments. I implore you. I want to know more about this series. Is this series worth continuing? Let me know. Next is Uzumaki by the amazing Junji Ito. I really need to collect more of his stuff. He's really amazing. As I explained in last year's video, Uzumaki is more like silly horror than it is like horror, although there are some stories in this that still haunt me to this day. Some of them are so creepy. Uzumaki is basically the story of a town that gets infected with this like spiral curse. Like, spirals start to appear everywhere and start killing people in like really bizarre ways. It's a really odd story to explain. I would treat Uzumaki not as like a continuous story, but more as a collection of short stories. If you're expecting some sort of climactic awesome end to this story, you're going to be disappointed, just as a fair warning. But I really, really enjoy Uzumaki, and I gotta collect more of his stuff. He's so good. Speaking of Junji Ito, here is Junji Ito's Cat Diary. Oh boy. Isn't that something? A horror manga artist decides to write a manga about his cats. Believe it or not, it is really funny. Like, yeah, this this little panel here on the back pretty much sums it all up. It's hilarious. It's very realistic. I don't even own cats, and I still found this story to be amazing. If you are a pet owner, you like pets, Junji Ito's Cat Diary is super realistic, super funny, and it definitely gets pet owners right and pets right, really. So it was a very entertaining read. I definitely recommend that. Parasite, omnibuses 1 and 2. I really, really enjoyed Parasite, and I might collect it all someday, I might not. I just really enjoyed these first 2 volumes. This is probably my favorite part of the series, so I didn't really feel compelled to collect more. That being said, Parasite is a classic. The new anime, really this was written in the 80s, and this new anime came out in the 2010s, and the anime is awesome. They did a really good job updating it to a modern setting, and I've been really, really enjoying that anime. So 10 out of 10 Parasite. Awesome manga, awesome adaptation. School Live! Oh boy. I don't know if I'm going to collect more of this. I really enjoyed the anime version of School Live, but I didn't like the manga as much, oddly enough. Yeah, I don't really want to talk about this one too much, because really just talking about it kind of gives away what makes School Live so special. But let's just say that somebody told me that it was just like Azumanga Daioh, and oh boy, was I surprised when I found out what it really was like. If you like cute girls, and you like spooky things, check out School Live. Next up is Requiem of the Rose King. This was recommended to me by a viewer. This is, as he or she put it, one of the oddest shoujos you'll ever read, and yeah, they were totally right. It's based on the War of the Roses, and it's, oof, man, it's just an odd one. As some of you might know from watching my videos, I'm a huge fan of the historical character of Joan of Arc, you know, her as a person and her in historical fiction. And this series has a very, very interesting take on that character, so I've been itching to read more to find out more of what happens. I mean, it's just very strange, but it's very good. Next is Dead Man Wonderland. I've only collected volumes 1 and 2, mostly because I really liked the beginning of Dead Man Wonderland. I didn't really like where it went as a series. That being said, though, the series is still absolutely amazing. A lot of people recommend this series for very good reasons. It's very gritty, it's very violent, but I really did enjoy it. It's kind of cool, too, because if you own all of Dead Man Wonderland, you would know that each volume flip-flops on either being black or white. So if you have all of Dead Man Wonderland, it's like white, black, white, black, white, black. It looks really, really good on a shelf. Viz Media did an awesome job with this series. I mean, it just looks so cool. I might collect more one day, but for now, I just have the first 2 volumes. And Blue Exorcist, my guilty pleasure. Oh boy. This series is another one published by Viz Media, and I love the covers are just so, I don't know, they're just so cool. There's something so, like, minimal about them, but I really do enjoy them. This is another guilty pleasure for me. Blue Exorcist starts out amazing, and then it just gets really, really, really slow. But I don't know, I think if you like Soul Eater, this is a good series to get into. It's kind of like Soul Eater, and it's sort of like gothic, like horror-esque, shonen-ish. Like, I don't know how to describe that, but Blue Exorcist, for what it is good. It's my guilty pleasure, and I really, really, really enjoy it, but I understand why some people might not. Here we have the manga adaptation of Blood Plus. If you've seen the Blood Plus anime, this is sort of the same, but not really. This is a sort of unique case where the manga comes after the anime, and the story in the manga is super different. It kind of follows the same beats, but there's so many changes, and the ending is drastically different from the anime. So if you're a fan of Blood Plus, I definitely recommend checking out this manga adaptation, especially since it's only 5 volumes. Next up, we have My Love Story, volumes 1 through 9, and oh man, this 9th volume just came out in the States, and look at that. That is so cool. My Love Story is a shoujo manga about a really, really big guy. I mean, he's huge. He's just super tall, super muscular, falling in love with a super petite girl. And if you enjoy shoujo stories but feel like shoujo gets weighed down too much by, convoluted plots and soap opera-ish developments. My Love Story is a nice, refreshing take on shoujo stuff, and it's absolutely hilarious. You know, I would be walking around Japan seeing advertisements for different shoujo manga series and see all these cute little girls and guys, and then there'd be this guy on there too, and that would just, oh, that would crack me up so hard. Yeah, My Love Story's great. Definitely gets my recommendation. Next up is a tiny little manga volume from my childhood, Jijiko's Champion Cup Theater. It's kind of a weird sort of comic book manga volume about a character called DG Charette, who is the mascot of a store in Akihabara, Tokyo, called Gamers. And I actually got to visit that store in May, so that was super, super cool. Yeah, definitely an odd sort of auto-print volume from my childhood. And we have Bleach, volumes 1 through 6 in omnibus format, and 21 and 27. As I mentioned last year, I own volumes 1 through 6 because the first part of Bleach, that initial arc where Ichigo's town is constantly being attacked by evil spirits, and there's all this drama and all this really, really cool character interaction, is my favorite part of Bleach. I do love Soul Society, don't get me wrong, I know everybody does, but I like this part a lot more. Volume 21 introduces my favorite character in Bleach, Shinji, who is on the cover right there. And 27 has my favorite chapter in Bleach, and if you don't know what that chapter is, let me just say it has something to do with that character right there. So, spoilers free, that's my favorite chapter in all of Bleach. I just think it's so beautiful. I also have Pokemon Adventures Volume 1 and 2, and going all the way down here, Volumes 3 and 4. This covers a little bit of the first arc, the red, blue, yellow, and green arc. If you don't know about Pokemon Adventures is a very interesting manga. It's not canon, but it's a very, very good Pokemon adaptation. I highly recommend it for people who are really into Pokemon and manga. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how good this series really is. I really, really need to read Gold, Silver, and Crystal, the second arc, because, I mean, those are my favorite games of the series. It's really a crime that I haven't read those already. Next, we have all of this manga. I mean, look at that. Jeez. I also have these cute little, like, cardboardy plaque things from Japan featuring a bunch of different characters. So that's super cool. There's a lot of these, so let's get to it. I have the manga adaptation of the original series. I would recommend owning that if you want a cheap alternative to owning the series, which is absolutely ridiculous. The price of manga is just, it's just stupidly expensive. I love the original series, and this is a very good adaptation of that, although I think the original series is just a better experience, but that's just my own opinion. The different story is, it's kind of hard to explain what the different story is about without spoiling the original series, but let's just say this is an alternate take on events that happened in the original series, and it focuses mostly on the characters of Mami and Kyoko. Let me just say, again, to be vague, basically the different story is what would happen if episode 3 in Madoka didn't happen. Like, what if things that happened in that episode just didn't happen? So that's basically what the different story is about. It's honestly one of the best Madoka stories you can ever read. It's absolutely incredible, and the ending is so, so good. This is the manga adaptation of the Rebellion movie, or the Rebellion story. The manga, of course, says the movie Rebellion, which I find to be absolutely irritating because the manga itself is not a movie, so why are you calling it the movie Rebellion? Yeah, it's really good. Another amazing adaptation by the same author who did the original and the different story. In fact, I actually like the ending better in the manga version than I do in the movie. The manga version explains the antagonist's motives a little bit more than the movie does, and I want to be vague when I say that, because again, there are some major spoilers that I'm dodging hard here, but I actually like the manga adaptation a lot better in as far as Rebellion is concerned. Next, I have Kazumi Magica, well, Imagine Kazumi Magica, and I didn't continue this one simply because I didn't really think it was that interesting. I also didn't like the blatant fan service in it, but that's just my own opinion. I know a lot of people like Azumi Magica, and I might continue it someday. Please, again, like Tokyo Ghoul, please comment below if you want me to continue this series. I will look into it, and, you know, please correct me if I'm wrong. Next is Tart Magica. Well, Imagine Tart Magica. Tart is actually a different way you can say the arc, so this is a Monica manga about Joan of Arc. If you haven't seen the original Monica series, do not read this series. It spoils so much of Monica. It's not even funny. But I absolutely adore it. I love Monica and I love Joan of Arc, and this series does a really, really good job at blending the two together. So yeah, it's basically just like what would happen if Joan of Arc was a magical girl. Oftentimes in the story, they'll explain what's actually going on. So they'll say like, you know, okay, so in our story, this is what's happening, but in the real story, this is what actually happened. And this particular little section cracks me up. So right here it says, this is very long, so you can skip it if you want. Yeah, that is pretty long. But I do appreciate the fact that, you know, Joan of Arc was a real person. And you're making a story about Joan of Arc as a magical girl. I like the honesty in this and saying, yes, we're going to have some fun with this, but please understand what actually happened. That respect to the historical figure of Joan of Arc is something I definitely appreciate. I really do enjoy Tart Magica, and I can't wait for the 4th volume to come in. Ah, these volumes have been taking forever to come over here in the States. Ah, just get the 4th volume over here already. Next is Homura's Revenge. This is a similar story to the different story, and again, I don't want to say why, because it does spoil quite a bit. Again, to be vague, Homura's Revenge is much like the different story, except this time it asks the question, what if Monica knew everything that was actually going on? Kind of, that's, again, try and be vague here. There's a lot more to it, but I'm just going to be vague there. The different story, in my opinion, is the better story. Homura's Revenge is, it's a decent story, but for what it tries to accomplish, the different story just does a lot better. But if you're a Homura fan, definitely check this one out. Speaking of Homura, here's Homura Tamura. I have the 1st and 2nd volume of this. This is a very, very odd sort of adaptation. It's just comedy stories about the Monica characters. If you're going into this expecting anything serious, look for another series, or another adaptation, rather. It's a cute story, but let's be real. The characters that are shown in this story are less the characters of, like, in Monica themselves as they are, like, the fan interpretations of these characters. Like, this is who the fandom would have you believe that these characters are. It's a fun romp, but, I mean, if you're expecting anything serious, please look somewhere else. Next up is Assassination Classroom, or, as I like to call it, Ass Class. Now, this is a very interesting series that I swear I thought it was never going to make it over here in the States, because it's basically about a alien teacher who blows up like half the moon, and he says to the Earth, like, I am going to blow the Earth up in a year, and you have a year to try to assassinate me. But here's the catch, right? He's like, I want to, like, teach a whole classroom how to do this. And you can, like, try to train the class to kill me and stuff like that. It's like a very convoluted, crazy story. So anyway, because this story literally features students in a classroom with guns. I mean, yes, they're not real guns. They shoot this, like, anti-alien, like, sort of, like, rubber bullet. I thought it was never going to be published in the States, but sure enough it was. And I'm very happy that it made it over. I might collect more volumes, especially because the series is finished. I believe it's like around like 18 or 20 volumes, so I mean, that's very tempting. I might actually go out and buy more. But for now, I have these 3 volumes, and I've been very satisfied with them. Next is A Blast from the Past, Chrono Crusade. I have the 1st volume of this. It's another story that incorporates religion into its narrative. It's more Protestantism, even though the main character dresses up like a nun, so I don't know, it's kind of weird. The ending will make you curl up into a ball and cry for 5 hours straight, but I promise you, it is totally worth it. So I don't know how this happened, but my volume of Durarara got mixed up. I'm gonna put that right there so people don't think I'm some kind of casual. Narita definitely comes before Naito, I can tell you that much. I know my ABCs. This is Durarara, the manga adaptation. It is okay. I don't know. It's alright. I seriously need to read more of it. I just haven't given this series that much of a chance, I think. It was pitched to me rather as like an alternative Baccano set in the present day, and I honestly haven't really, I don't know, it's just not that exciting for me. But please, again, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if I should keep reading Durarara. Next is the 2 omnibuses of Trigun. I believe Trigun, the story is continued in Trigun Maximum. This is another series that I just, for whatever reason, haven't continued. In fact, I'm still stuck on this first volume. I have owned this series for like 2 years now, and I, for whatever reason, just haven't read it all. I just haven't been interested, and I really feel bad because I know that Trigun is good. So really, I just need to sit down and read it. Speaking of Trigun, we have Blood Blockade Battlefront, which went through publication hell. I mean, oh my gosh, look at all these different styles by the same publisher. It's like, oh my gosh, you have this first one here that looks good, and then you have these next ones here that, I mean, they still look good, but I mean, what happened? And then these last 2 volumes, which, why? Like, why did this happen? Blood Blockade Battlefront is super good. I really love the anime. It can be kind of hard to follow sometimes, the action that is, but the story is so intriguing. It's very strange. Unfortunately, this series it's in hiatus hell. They have not announced an 8th volume. I mean, there are more than 8 volumes in Japan. I believe I saw the 10th and 11th when I was over there, but Dark Horse has not announced an 8th volume, which really, really makes me upset because scanlators are not even touching this series right now, so I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to finish this series, which is a really, 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 I don't know, it's just really sad. Please, Dark Horse, please continue the series. I absolutely love it. Now let's talk about all of this One Piece. All 78 volumes of it. Oh my goodness, I have so much One Piece. Now, a lot of people last year asked me, CJ, why do you like One Piece? Like, what about One Piece makes it so special? Well, to be frank, it's just consistent. It's just consistently good. It's consistently fun, adventurous. The story of One Piece is really, in my opinion, an epic. It's basically, again, this is just my opinion, the manga version of the Lord of the Rings. There's just so much content, and I just love the story so much. The characters are cute, they're fun, they're enjoyable. And unlike many series where characters just get thrown out the window and forgotten about, the characters in One Piece are pretty consistent. At least the 9 members of the main crew are featured in almost every single arc. So if you have a favorite character in the main crew, you don't have to worry about them just disappearing, which is really, really nice. There's a lot of shonen series. I know that Bleach is a particular series that does this a lot, where they'll introduce a character and then just completely forget about them for the rest of the story. One Piece is not a series that does that. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk more about this beautiful series. So I own this volume right here in Japanese. This is Wanted. It is a collection of short stories written by Eiichiro Oda, the author of One Piece. I got this volume in particular because it has the pilot chapter of One Piece, Romance Dawn, sort of the prototype before One Piece became a thing, and has a lot of interesting differences in it. It also has the story of Ryoma, who is a character who is featured in Thriller Bark, the Thriller Bark arc of One Piece, that is. I own every single volume of One Piece, but I just wanted to talk about these first 23 for a little bit. So you can see here, that little East Blue tag, there's 2 Baroque's Works tags there, and another one right there on volume 22. Those are the new volumes. The rest of these are used. They're all the old edition. And I just wanted to clarify something really quick for any of you who might have any fears about the old edition of the manga. 4Kids, the cold, evil, awful hand of 4Kids, did not touch the manga version of One Piece, fortunately. And especially you can see here on volume 8, and Luffy is just covered in blood here. This was something that was censored in the 4Kids version of the anime. In fact, as a little side note, a lot of people suspect that Oda is referencing 4Kids in some of the newest chapters of One Piece. I'll be very vague to avoid spoilers, but basically there was a image of Sanji here eating a lollipop, which, if you don't know, in the 4Kids version of One Piece, they replaced his cigarette with a lollipop. And then there's literally a scene where he is being antagonized by 4 kids, literally 4 children. Like, so, I mean, I don't think Oda would ever reference something like that, especially something that didn't even affect his own country, but I mean, the coincidences are pretty funny. And I also have this cute little figure of Chopper here in this little submarine. This is actually part of a set, and they all come together to form a giant Chopper robot, which is just absolutely adorable. I also have these tiny little figures of Tashigi, Perona, and Baby 5, who are 3 of my favorite characters in One Piece. Though, to be clear, Brooke and Usopp are my favorite characters. And this was actually a gift from my friend Christian, so thank you for that, Christian. I also have these art books here featuring art from my favorite arcs, that is Water 7 and Thriller Bark. I picked up this volume of One Piece in Japan. It was the latest volume that was out when I was there. It covers some of the Zoe arc, which, oh, the Zoe arc was just amazing. I'm super excited for the current arc we're on now. And I have a DVD of the Funimation dub of One Piece. And Funimation does a pretty good job with One Piece. It's not perfect, but you know what? I'll take it. It's pretty good. And yeah, so continuing on, we have volumes 24 through 47. 46 through 50 is some of my favorite of One Piece. Personally, critically, I think that these volumes right here, the Water 7 arc leading into Inez Lobby, are the best parts of One Piece. Critically, I think these are the best parts. My personal favorite, though, is the Thriller Bark. Excuse me, that's a mouthful. So I own only one omnibus of One Piece. I just found it cheaper to own this than to buy 3 volumes of Skypiea. But I wanted to point this out really quick. I really don't like the omnibus versions of One Piece. I think it's really, really lazy. All they do is they zoom in on wherever Luffy is on the cover, and in my opinion, it really destroys some of these beautiful covers. So yeah, just to, again, for an example, so looking at volume 41, this is one of my favorite volume covers. You have this awesome image of Luffy and Soga King, and the background features elements of Robin's past. So on an omnibus cover, only this part would be zoomed in. You wouldn't see anything else, which in my opinion is a real shame, because this art, it's not like perfect, but it's beautiful, you know, and I don't know. It's just, in my opinion, it does a disservice. And all of the side art for these omnibuses, it's all just Luffy, which makes the series look like it's just some kind of solo adventure featuring Luffy, which is really, I mean, that doesn't represent what One Piece is all about, in my opinion. So next up we have volumes 48 through 69. We also have this tiny little figure of one of Caesar's workers from Punk Hazard that was given to me by my friend Shark. Thank you so much, Shark. I have this character data log book called Deep Blue. It's very pretty. The reason I have this is because it has a chapter of One Piece in it called Strong World. You can see there in the back. Unfortunately, the only way to get Strong World in English is if you bought the second box set of One Piece manga. And I already own all of that, so that was not going to happen for me. So that was my little compromise. And of course, I have volumes 70 through 78. This covers Dressrosa. A lot of people have criticized Dressrosa as not really being that awesome of an arc, and I have to agree. In my opinion, the worst of One Piece is still better than most shonen, though. So this arc isn't terrible, but compared to other One Piece arcs, it's really lackluster. And I'm super excited for the English publication to get to volume 80, because that's where things really, really start picking up. I also have this volume here. It's called Green. It's another data log. Very cute. The reason I got it is because you can see here in the back, it has some information about what characters originally looked like. Like, right there is Chopper. Like, look at that. That's insane. And here's some original designs for Brooke. That is super, super cool. Yeah, that's, I don't know. That was just a really neat find for me, and it was like American dollars, basically the equivalent of $2 So yeah, that was definitely worth it for me. Next is Death Note. I have volumes 1 through 12, and also the 13th volume, the data log book called How to Read. Excuse me, Death Note. I already know how to read. No, but this series is very good. A lot of people, most people, from what I've seen, agree that the first half is better than the second half. In my opinion, read the first half. If you like it, if you love it, read the second half. I'm sure you won't be all that disappointed. I'm one of those few people that really, really like the end. I think the end of the series is phenomenal, in my opinion. Not so much the second half itself, but the very, very end. That's what I'm talking about. I love it so much. Let me know in the comments if you like it too. Next is Soul Eater, volumes 1 through 3. Now, Soul Eater is a series that I seriously need to own more volumes of. It's one of my favorite shonen series, and it's a real crime that I only own 3 volumes of it. What am I thinking? But, you know, next time there's a used manga sale or something like that, I'll be sure to pick up more. Soul Eater is a very unique series. It's like DGrayMan in that it has, like, some gothic horror elements, but I, in particular, would like to praise Soul Eater because there's some moments in later volumes where the manga artist really decided to utilize manga as a medium and really go nuts with it. I can show an example probably right here of what I'm talking about. Like, there are some angles and some images you probably never could have even imagined you would see in manga. That's in Soul Eater. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Gets a very, very, very high recommendation from me. And next is Soul Eater Not Volumes 1 through 5. Oh boy. This is another guilty pleasure for me. Soul Eater Not is a spin-off from Soul Eater. It features 3 girls who are going to the same academy as the students from the first series, but it's like a prequel. They're younger students. And they do bump into some characters from Soul Eater, but overall, it's not that action-packed adventure that you know from Soul Eater. It's more like slice of life. I only recommend this series to someone who is a huge fan of Soul Eater. Otherwise, you're probably going to be disappointed, let's be real. Next is One Punch! Volumes 1 through 7. I love One Punch Man. One Punch Man is fantastic. If you don't know, this is an adaptation of the original webcomic by One. That's his pen name. One is not that great of an artist, but he decided that, you know what, he's just going to draw manga anyway, and the result is amazing. The story is fantastic. So all of this is just the story with updated art, and the art is incredible. In fact, my camera right now is trying to, using its face recognition software, is trying to recognize some of the faces on the sides of those volumes. That's pretty funny. Yeah, One Punch Man's fantastic. And right now I'm really, really enjoying what's currently out of Mob Psycho 100. It's another, it's an anime that is based on another one of One's series, and I just absolutely adore it. I really, really need to check out more stuff by this guy. Next is Bobobo, featuring the one-shot volume that was originally published and the first 5 volumes that were published after that. So, if you're a Bobobo fan, this one-shot volume covers most of the Halukalani arc, and then these 5 volumes are not actually volumes 1 through 5. They are actually volumes 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. For whatever reason, Shonen Jump only published these volumes and didn't publish any of them after that, which is a real shame because I'm a huge Bobobo fan, and I've always wanted to read the story as a whole, but as it is, with scanlators basically, I mean, understandably not translating all of it, and, you know, with the cancellations and awkward publications, there's just going to be no way I'm ever going to be able to experience the series as a whole, which is a real shame. For those who don't know, it's really hard to translate Japanese humor, especially when it comes to puns. And yeah, Bobobo was just a tough project. So I'm glad that I have what I have now, but I mean, you know, it's just a real shame. Also, just as a warning, you know, if you're going to buy stuff off of Amazon, be sure to figure out if it's a library copy or not. These are some of the most awkward manga volumes I own. They're actually really easy to read because they're in that hardcover format, but they do look very awkward compared to the other 3 volumes. And we have Blood Plus Adagio. I put this over here because it has a different author from the Blood Plus manga adaptation. This is a prequel story that was not featured in the anime about, basically, Saya goes to Russia and hangs out with, like, the Russian royal family. It's very, very strange, but it's, I don't know, it's hard to describe how good it is. I would only read this if you've seen the Blood Plus anime, though. It's probably my favorite thing of Blood Plus ever. I mean, it's just so, so good. And you can see up here, I have crammed in here these manga samplers. Ah, get out! I don't really know where to put them. But, yeah, Viz Media, once a year, has decided to publish these little samplers in Barnes & Noble. You can pick them up for free, and they're okay. They're really samplers, though. I mean, a lot of them don't even feature full first chapters of the series that they're featuring. So, I mean, if you want a taste of some popular series that are currently coming out, these can give you a real good idea of what's, I don't know, what's cool and what people like, but I don't know. They're just little bits and pieces. They're kind of cool, though. They're free. I can't complain about free things. Gosh, CJ, complain about free things. How could you? Next is the 7 Deadly Sins, volumes 1 through 13. Now, originally, I was going to stop at volume 13. I think I said that at one of my manga pickup videos. But come on, Escanor is such a cool character. I have to say that right now. Some of the recent chapters that have come out of this series have been absolutely insane. They're so good. There's literally one character in the series that absolutely redeems the whole thing, and he actually is not featured in the series until after this 13th volume. So now I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. I want to get more, but I promised I wouldn't get more than 13. Oh, I don't know. We'll see. I probably will end up getting more than 13 one day. But Seven Deadly Sins is an action-packed shonen series. I mean, the action is just incredible. There's one chapter, I believe in the first volume, literally all the chapter is just one character throwing a spear at another character who's like miles away. That character then catches the spear and throws it back at that character. And it sounds like a really boring chapter. Like, wow, CJ, that sounds boring as like all hell. But no, I mean, this chapter is so incredible. Just the weight and movement of these characters is so perfectly detailed. I haven't seen action this good in a manga in a long time. I highly, highly recommend the Seven Deadly Sins if you like action. And just up here I have a Kodansha sampler. I don't know if Kodansha did a sampler this year at Barnes & Noble. I didn't see one if they did. Maybe they ran out of it by the time I got there. But there's that. And then I have this volume of Ranma Half. This is actually one of my favorite manga volumes of all time. It's a very old edition of Ranma Half. And it features one of the funniest chapters in the series, just in my own opinion. It's very cute. I really like the story arc featured in this one. And next we have Fruits Baskets, the Fruits Basket, Fruits Basket, the first and second volume omnibuses. I actually really like these publications because, as I mentioned before in a manga pickup video, they are paper, so I highly recommend picking them up at the store. Don't get these from like Amazon or something because you're going to end up with really bad scuffing on the volumes. But otherwise, the content inside is perfectly fine. That's what really matters when it comes to manga. Fruits Basket is one of the best shoujo series you can ever read. It's just phenomenal. It's really good. The art has aged a bit, but the story stands the test of time in my opinion, and I've enjoyed Fruits Basket quite a bit when I was younger. And I'm very excited to reread these coming up in the next few days. Next is Phantom Thief Jean, another Joan of Arc story. Well, I mean, it's more like Joan of Arc's reincarnation, who's now a magical thief. It's cute. A lot of people want me to read more of this, and I'm looking into reading more of it. When I start working again, when I get money again, I might buy more of this, but as of now, I'll just say the first volume was cute. It was cute. Next is Astro Boy Volume 3. This was given to me by my good friend Kai. It features the Pluto story. If you don't know about Pluto, Pluto is probably, I don't know if, I'm pretty sure it's the most acclaimed Astro Boy story. It was retold in a manga called, well, Pluto, and I've been so looking into buying those volumes. They're really expensive. But I read the scan-later version of Pluto. I absolutely adored it. You don't need to read this original story to get Pluto, but, I mean, man, that was, Pluto's just so good. Next is Claymore, Volume 1, and this was recommended to me by one of my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much, Sean. Claymore is an older manga, and I seriously need to get more of it. It's just awesome. It's really good. And I especially like this publication because, as I mentioned in my manga pickup video, you can actually see they put like this little coating on her eyes on the volume cover, so when you move it, her eyes are reflective, which is pretty cool, especially considering the story context of that. Next is 3 volumes of the Ancient Magus' Bride, excuse me. A lot of people got mad at me for comparing this to Twilight. And let me just say right now that I actually apologize for that, because who would ever want one of their favorite series compared to Twilight? Nah, I kid. I actually have a lot of friends who are Twilight fans, so I mean no offense by that. I didn't like this as much as I thought I would. It's a very, how do I put this the right way? It's just good. That's all it is. It's just good. But it's not like something that really captivated my interest. The art's amazing. It's a very unique sort of story, but I don't like the main character. I think she's a little bland. Again, this is just my opinion. And I don't know. I haven't really been that much intrigued by it. I might get more volumes if it catches my interest again, but these first 3 volumes were enjoyable as they were, and really not too many complaints. I know a lot of people like that series though, so let me know in the comments. Again, let me know if it gets better. Prove me wrong. I want you to prove me wrong. Next is Nana. I found this at a Goodwill in the children's section. I have a whole video on that though. And Nana's okay. What am I talking about? It's great. I just need to read more of it, that's all. And yeah, so I've been looking forward to finding used volumes of this, giving this series the proper read that I think it deserves. You know, I actually forget a lot to show the manga that I have out in my living room. These are the manga volumes that I feel most comfortable showing people. Just the manga volumes that I personally think, even if you're not a manga fan, you really should check out. I also have all my American trades out here as well, but that's another video for another time. So first off, I have What a Wonderful World. This is by a mangaka called Asano, last name Asano, that is. He's absolutely amazing. I particularly like the second story in the first volume the best. This is a collection of short stories. It's really good. It's dark, but it's, I don't know, it's something amazing. It's so hard to describe. Solanin is a great story featuring adults out of college. You rarely get manga that features adults. Most of it's about teenagers, for good reasons. I mean, teenagers are the primary consumers of manga. But so it's nice to have this story that features adults dealing with real adult issues. And oh man, it's so sad. It's definitely worth a read though. And A Girl on the Shore, same author. I haven't read this one yet. I'm gonna be real with you guys. Just for whatever reason, I haven't sat down and just really dug into it, but I know it's good, so I definitely will do that. Next is Goodnight Poon Poon. I haven't finished Goodnight Poon Poon. I was reading the scanlations. So far I like it, but it's not like a like as in like, oh, I love this and it's just amazing and ah! Like, I understand that Goodnight Poon Poon is like critically acclaimed, but personally I don't enjoy it as much. I don't like dark, depressing, sad, slow stories. But I felt like I at least had to buy the first volume to support the series. I probably won't get any more volumes beyond this one, though. Fooly Cooly, the manga adaptation. It's only 2 volumes. Oh, excuse me, all these ponies are here. Sorry, ponies. You're going to have to leave for this. Goodbye, ponies! The manga adaptation of Fooly Cooly is a little different from the anime, and by a little I mean a lot. If you enjoy the classic anime, these 2 manga volumes, you're probably going to enjoy these as well. The tone is a little different, and the ending is very different. Personally, I enjoy both equally as much, so this is definitely a recommendation for me, especially if you enjoyed that original anime. And oh boy, I'm really nervous for that planned Fooly Cooly sequel. What's that going to be like? Next is A Silent Voice, volumes 1 through 7. This is the entire series. A Silent Voice is something that I personally plan on having available in my future English classrooms. A Silent Voice is a story about a young girl who is bullied in her school and is eventually driven out of the school because the bullying is that bad. One of her former bullies ends up trying to make up for it. He ends up apologizing to her, and the story goes from there. It's an amazing story, not only about bullying, but also about people with disabilities, and I absolutely adore it. It's really, really just one of those mangas that everybody should read. I mean, seriously, if you haven't heard of Silent Voice, or you've been meaning to check it out, or you're thinking about checking it out, just do it. This manga series needs your attention. Of all the manga I ever show you, this is the one that I want you to check out the most. Next is Orange. This is a shoujo series that is complete in 2 omnibuses. I didn't like the end that much for this series, I'm just gonna be real with you, but as far as the entire series goes, I really did enjoy it. It's, again, one of those shoujos that isn't weighed down by crappy plot points and bad writing. It's one to look into. If you want to see what shoujo can really be like, Orange is a very, very good example of it. Here is Twin Spica, and I need to find a good place for this. This is a series that was given to me on my for my birthday by my good friend Kai. And it's amazing. I am a really, really huge fan of NASA and space travel and all of that stuff, so I'm really disappointed in myself that I didn't check out this series earlier. This is about a young girl who dreams of being an astronaut, and I don't really want to say much more than that. The art is kind of wonky, and I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just different. So it can turn off a lot of people, and I totally understand if you weren't initially attracted to this because the art is so different. But I enjoyed it, and it gets a very, very good recommendation from me.
Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already and you want to, please like and subscribe. It would really help me out. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters, and until next time, this is CJ, signing off.